Hello again, and welcome to Grief Inspired. My name is Catherine, and for those of you who are grieving, my first mission is to support you in your grief. Today in this video, I intend to do this by fostering hope, eliminating the fear you're likely experiencing, and removing some items of uncertainty. Now, before we begin, as always, I want to remind you that you are not alone in your grief. I'm here to support you every step of the way, no matter where you are on your journey. So I mentioned that I want to foster hope. If your grief is fresh and raw, you may be feeling overwhelmed. Grief swoops in and it takes over your life, and it can be all-encompassing. It can hold you hostage and consume your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors. Now, in the absence of hope, all that we're left with is despair. A pastor named Rob Bell defined despair really well. He said that despair is the belief that tomorrow will be just like today. If you believe this, it can be really devastating. So to foster hope for you, I'd like to see if we can shift your perspective a bit. You will not feel like this forever. As you learn to process grief, you'll be able to understand your emotions, start managing your thoughts, and find a way to make sense of it all. So for right now and for today, try to shift from despair to hope. Hang on tight, be gentle with yourself, reach out for support when you need it, and know that you can and you will survive this. Today, I'd also like to help eliminate fear. Fear that your emotions will actually consume you. Fear that your world is spinning out of control. Fear that no one else understands. And maybe even fear that you're going crazy. I'm building a community to offer you support, to give you a place to reach out and ask for support when and if you need it. I'm also offering a video library that you'll be able to go to as needed, and it'll walk you through the process of grief. So if you're feeling scared and fear is taking over, reach out to me or someone you know. Now, if you're interested in gaining access to my video series, just enter a comment in the chat box below, and I'll reach out to you directly. So I also want to talk about uncertainty. And it's interesting because a huge component of fear is uncertainty. So if you're feeling uncertain about what's going to happen next, or if you're uncertain about how your life is going to be different, if you're uncertain about how your feelings are going to change, this is all perfectly normal. And for me, I believe that the cure for uncertainty is really education. So you may have heard of the 5 stages of grief, right? The first is denial. So this is where I can't believe that this has happened. Is this actually real? Another stage of grief is anger. Anger is a bit self-explanatory. If you're early in your grief and you haven't experienced anger yet, hang on, because I can guarantee you it's coming. I don't know anyone who's experienced grief and hasn't had a component of anger to it. Another stage of grief is bargaining, and this is where you look up to the heavens and you say, if there's any way that I can change what's happened, let me know, because I'll do it. Literally, I'll do anything. Another stage of grief is depression, and depression is something that will come and go without warning. So depression and sadness kind of go hand to hand, and it's really, one of the largest components of suffering in the grief process. So one of the things that I really want to educate you about is the fact that the stages of grief are not linear. They don't start, at one end and then you progress through them and you end up at acceptance. It doesn't work like that. So the stages of grief are fluid. You can move in and out of them as you go on your grief journey. And it's really normal, and it's part of the healing process. So when things change without warning, you can be assured that, okay, this is part of the process. This is just something that I need to go through. The last stage of grief is acceptance. Typically, acceptance is reserved for later in the process, after you've mentally processed what's happened, emotionally processed what's happened, and you're really starting to come to terms with it. But again, during the process of grief, you start to accept things as you sort of gain more understanding. So what I want to make sure that you get out of this is that preparation is the key to uncertainty. So the more that you can learn and the more you can understand about the grief process and about yourself, the less uncertainty will take hold of your life. So to review what we discussed so far, my intention with this video was really to give you hope in your grief, to give you assurance that fear in the process is completely natural, and that there are things that you can do to help minimize and even eliminate fear. And one of the ways to do that is really through as much education and understanding as you can get. With education and understanding, you can remove a lot of the uncertainty of the grief process over the coming weeks and months. So if you're in the throes of despair, if you're grieving today, if you're early in your stages of grief, or really anywhere in the grief process, my heart goes out to you today. I've experienced a lot of the feelings that you're experiencing, and I sat where you sit today. I can assure you that eventually tomorrow will not be the same as today. That's the hope that I want to leave you with today. I am here to support you, again, every step of the way. From my heart to yours, my name is Catherine, and this is Grief Inspired.